Can you put a house with a mortgage in an LLC for rental property purposes? It depends. So this is a great idea, by the way. If you own rental property or investment property, it is very, very smart to have it in an LLC or something like a land trust in order to help insulate yourself from personal liability. What can happen when you own rental property just under your own name is if there's a dispute related to the property or if something occurs on the property and somebody comes after you as the owner, when it's in your name, they can potentially gain access to all of your assets if there's a lawsuit, or they can try to come after everything that you own. When you have the proper LLC set up, or you have rental property or investment property owned under a land trust, which I'll talk more about in another video, but both of these are ways that you can potentially really limit your liability. If something occurs in a property that's owned by an LLC, for example, assuming everything's set up properly with the LLC, then they can only really attack or go after the LLC. In this instance, you're limiting what they can collect to what's owned by the LLC itself, like the property or the LLC bank account, and it's limiting their reach to your actual personal assets. So this is highly recommended, and it's a great idea, and a lot of investors set up LLCs prior to purchasing the property so they can go directly under the LLC. However, there's some HOAs that frown upon ownership in LLCs, and also some banks that may not be willing to provide a loan for the property if needed, a mortgage if it's in an LLC. So this often turns into, well, can I put it into an LLC after the fact? Or honestly, sometimes people just naturally buy it under their own name or names if it's more than one person buying the property, and then later on realize that for legal liability reasons, it's smarter to have it in an LLC. So there could be various reasons that you want to make this switch into the LLC. But if there is, as an example, mortgage on the property, then the lender could have rules against this. Now, usually, as long as you're paying the mortgage and you're not in default, it shouldn't be a problem. However, there's often due on sale clauses in mortgages, and they're in there in case there's a change of ownership requiring the mortgage to be paid right away. If this is the instance in your mortgage, then transferring it to an LLC could possibly trigger this due on sale clause. Now, there could be a chance that the lender doesn't say anything or do anything about it as long as the payments are being made. But technically what you should do is check in advance if it's okay. And if you check in advance and there is one of these clauses, you're most likely going to get told no, that you can't transfer it, or the entire mortgage is going to become due and payable. So that's one instance of where you can kind of get into trouble putting property into an LLC. The other I mentioned too is with the HOA. Some HOAs don't allow LLCs to own property that's controlled or under a certain HOA. So that's another thing that you have to look out for. Now, I do know that, oftentimes people will transfer property that has a mortgage into an LLC in order to help prevent liability, and it's totally fine. But that being said, really it depends on your lender, and you definitely don't want to be in a situation where you move the property, it's seen as changing hands for ownership purposes, and then you end up being in hot water with a mortgage company and potentially needing to pay off the loan. All right, so I hope this answers the question. If you have any other questions about LLCs or property ownership, whether it's for rental reasons or other reasons, and you're in Florida, you can contact our law firm. It's atCause Law, and the link is in my bio.